Hey everybody, Jeffrey Gardner here. Thanksgiving is nearly upon us, so it's time to talk turkey. Most of you may take the conventional route and roast your turkey in the oven, but over the past 10 years, we're starting to see a real uptick in people frying their turkey outdoors. So I'm going to walk you through the easiest process possible on how to make the most delicious bird that'll wow all your friends and family. First thing we're going to start with is a brine. You're going to want to do this the day before, so we're going to assemble a very simple wet brine for a fried turkey. Now, if you're going to do a turkey in the oven, I might advise more of a dry brine, but with this one, we're going to go with a wet brine since we're going to be submerging it in oil. I've got some hot water here on the stove. To that, I'm going to add 1 pound of kosher salt and 1 pound of brown sugar. Now, you could stop there if you wanted to. You would have a delicious brine of just salt sugar. We're going to add a little aromatics to this. I've got some whole garlic cloves that we've peeled and some fresh thyme. This is a whole package like you would buy out of the supermarket. You could add peppercorns, you could add other spices if you like, but I feel like this is just a good, simple approach to make a delicious brine. Now we're going to whisk this together. I've got this on the heat right now, just enough to dissolve the salt and the sugar. Okay, so we have our salt and sugar dissolved in our brine. I've got a deep, kind of cylindrical ice chest here. If you had a rectangular one, you can use that just as well. I just find the cylindrical ones are easier to stir. So we're going to add our hot brine. To our cooler. Now before we add our turkey, we want to make sure that this brine gets cold, because if we were to put the turkey in, it might start to poach and cook, and that would be bad. So I've got a significant amount of ice. This is about 5 pounds. And just give this a stir until the brine becomes cold. All right, so our brine is now nice and cold. If you wanted to add more ice, just because this is going to go overnight to keep the internal temperature cold, that's fine. This cooler is nice and insulated, so we're not going to need to worry about that because our brine is ice cold right now. We have our turkey. Remove the giblets from the inside. We're just going to place this down to where it is completely submerged into the brine. So the last thing is we want to make sure that our bird is completely weighted down and submerged in here. I've got a heavy pot lid. That's going to make sure that it stays down under there and all of our turkey is going to be brined nicely. Secure our lid on top. And we're going to hold this in a cool, dry place overnight, or at least about 8 hours until we're ready to fry the next day. Okay, we've pulled our turkey out of the brine. Now it's time to determine how much oil actually needs to go into the pot. We're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. We've pulled our turkey out of the ice chest. It's just sitting in here. We haven't done anything to it. We need to rinse some of the brine off of the bird, and then we need to determine how much oil to put in the pot. Easiest way to do this, I have a large measuring cup full of cold water. And we're just going to add this until it just covers the top of the bird. Keep track of how much you're adding, and by the end of it, that's how you're going to be able to know how much oil to add. Could be closer to 4 gallons, could be 3.5, just depends on the size of your pot and the size of your turkey. All right, so that took 3 gallons exactly. I want you to take a look at the inside of the pot. You can see that the turkey is just barely covered and that there's about 4 to 5 inches of space in between the top of the turkey and the top of the pot. When you drop your turkey into the hot oil, it's going to bubble up. Having this much cushion is going to make sure that it doesn't go over the edge and turn into one of those videos you see on YouTube. The brine is now rinsed off our turkey. We know how much oil we're going to need. Now, before we take this outside, most important step here is we need to make sure that we pat this turkey as thoroughly dry as possible inside the cavity and out, and we're going to dry the pot thoroughly. Water and hot oil are very volatile together. Turkeys have a lot of moisture in them naturally, so the more dry we can make this, the easier of a time you'll have outside. Okay, so now we're outside, time to fry our turkey. I want to go through a few easy steps on how we can make this as safe as possible. Number one, I want you to take a look around me. We're in the backyard, we're surrounded by grass. We're not doing this in the garage, we're not doing this in the driveway. There will be some residual oil spill once we lift the turkey out of the pot, but just in case something else were to happen, you want to make sure that you have easy enough cleanup, and the backyard is the best way to do this. We have our propane burner hooked up. This is on high heat right now. Our oil is heating. We have a fryer thermometer. We've got a little bit of aluminum foil just to help protect the hose, make sure we have no leaks. Depending on what kind of apparatus your turkey fryer setup has, ours has a basket with our turkey set inside. I want you to take a look. We also have it tied up with a little bit of kitchen twine just to make sure that the wings are fastened to the body to make sure that they don't overcook before the rest of the bird is done. We have our long lighter, which we just lit our burner. Have some silicone heat-proof gloves, our calibrated meat thermometer, roasting pan for our final, once we take the turkey out of the oven, and just a chair because we are not going to leave. We've also got a timer. Just in case this happens to be what your turkey fryer setup looks like, this will work just as well as the basket. So either method is fine. Just make sure you have everything trussed together. So one of the things we want to look at as our oil is heating up, our eventual fry time, once this hits 350, and I'll show you how we start gradually and build up, is 3 minutes per pound plus 5 additional minutes total of cook time. We're going to bring this to an internal temperature of about 151 to 155 degrees to allow for about 10 degrees of carryover cooking. Our bird is at room temperature, has been for about an hour. You don't want to fry just out of the refrigerator. Even if it's patted dry, thawed out, all of this, you'll have a much more even cooking process if you start with a room temperature bird. The final note on safety before we put this in, we have our oil at 250 degrees. This is going to be the safest temperature that's still hot enough that we can put our turkey in and oil won't boil over the side of it. Once our turkey's down, we're going to bring the oil up on high heat to 350 degrees, then turn the heat down just so we maintain that temperature throughout. Have our silicone heat-proof gloves, also have a fire extinguisher just in case. Haven't had to use it yet, so don't plan on starting now. Very carefully. To reaffix our thermometer here, but as you can see, our turkey is fully submerged. There's still about 4 inches of space between the top of the oil and the top of the pot. We're in good shape. So remember, 3 minutes per pound at 350 degrees, plus an additional 5 minutes, and then we'll take it out to rest for about half an hour before we carve it. Just check the thermometer. We're right where we need to be on temperature, 151 degrees. We're gonna carefully lift our turkey up and just hold it here for a second to make sure some of the oil will drain. The cavity has a tendency to hold a lot inside. Heat-proof silicone gloves will really help you get a better grip on this. If you have the different model, you can just kind of lift it up by the hook and do the same. And once our oil is drained away, we're going to put the turkey into our aluminum roasting pan just so we can transport it inside easily.